Hey there, guys. We've now got the unit data for Imperial Shield Wilhelm, and in this video, let's go over his kit. So I will say right up front, he seems like a pretty good unit. He's got a lot of really strong stuff, but there is one or two things I've seen in his kit that is a little concerning, and we're going to go over all of that in the video. So, as usual, we're going to start with his categories. And you might look at this list and be like, whoa, that's a big category list. Unfortunately, most of them are, for one thing, a little bit redundant, like the Clash of Wills and the regular elements. But he does have two very good categories, Elite Soldiers and Guardians. So that is nice to see. Also, of course, the Clash of Wills category, which is now becoming a much bigger deal in general to have that category. But yeah, so his categories are fine, you know. He's got two of the special ones that are relevant and then a bunch of expected ones. So that's good. His stats are pretty good, decently high HP, standard attack power. His spirit is, lower than the defense, to be expected, I guess. But we're going to talk more about his spirit a little bit later in the video. Lots of resistances across the board, some immunities. This is a little bit amusing because he's actually got a passive to give him immunity to all of them, but he also has innate immunities. So, for example, like Clash of Wills or whatever, these you wouldn't have to gear for, but I mean, you'd probably just wear like a ribbon anyway. I guess ignore that. It's not even that big a deal. It's just, yeah. He's immune to all the ailments from a passive, so there you go. As far as his gear goes, honestly speaking, you're almost always going to use a spear and his armor. So there's that. He can wear shields, and after seeing his kit, you might want to wear a shield sometimes if you're tanking, but obviously you wouldn't do that when you're dealing damage with him. Just depends what you need. As far as the rest of the stuff, a lot of the stuff is the expected, so 500 LB damage buff, 150 to all 5 of his elements, which is, awesome. Triple cast, he can do his little imbue swaps for all 5 of his elements, as expected. And then we get into the interesting stuff. Some of this stuff is really cool and very powerful. So his taunt is a 6-turn, 100% taunt, 80% general mitigation. Most of the time these self-taunts are 75 mit, but he has 80, which is not going to be that big a deal, as you're going to see in about 2 seconds. But 6-stack Mirage on demand. That's kind of awesome. It's only for himself, keep in mind, only for the caster, but still really good. Then his cover skill. So for one thing, it's either bugged in the data, which they're probably going to fix before maintenance is over, or it's bugged on the wiki. But it's saying chance to protect caster. Normally cover is chance to protect allies from damage. This is saying chance to protect caster from damage. Again, this is probably either a bug in the data, which they will probably fix before maintenance is over, or possibly a bug in the wiki, data mining tools. Maybe they're reading it wrong. I don't know. But as of right this second, on one of the ends, it is saying chance to protect caster from any damage. Again, maybe it's a bug, but at the current moment, this is Omni cover. This covers all damage. So on demand, Omni cover of 100% chance with 75 to 85% mitigation. And the reason I'm saying this is almost certainly a bug somewhere, either Gumi's end or the wiki's end, is because this would completely obsolete his Magnus ability. So it's got to be a glitch right now. Look for this to be updated at some point before maintenance is over. Anyway, the rest of the stuff, and the rest of the stuff is probably not glitched. This is probably the way it's supposed to be. So 6-turn, 85% general mitigation for the entire party. On demand. So a 6-turn, 85% general mit, usable on turn 1. That is incredible. Abigail, you've been awesome. It's time for you to go to the bench. 75% physical mitigation, but we have better elsewhere in the kit. And then a barrier for all the allies. Again, this is on demand. You can spam this every single turn. So 5,000 out of Clash, 10,000 in Clash. As far as, Clash, we've already talked about that, but there it is. We do still have Clash of Wills for one more week. So you could bring Wilhelm to the Tel Fusanas Clash of Wills, whatever it's called, Tel Amok, I don't know, whatever it is. Anyway, 30 for his chaining, 30% spear in peril. He does have better elsewhere in the kit. 30% spear in peril, and then some chaining. The damage is 750 times 3 in clash, 500 times 3. I should say in morale content, not in clash. So, like, if you go back to Morgana or something, there you go. Heals 10% HP for the party when you click it. You can do it 3 times in a row, so a 30% HP heal. Not that big, honestly. This one's a lot nicer. So 10% MP per cast. So 30% MP is actually a much bigger deal. That's kind of awesome. And then 80 to all breaks. He's also got Fairy Killer for all allies and himself, so yay. And then right here is his better in peril. 5-turn cooldown, 5-turn duration, so always up. In peril to his elements. 50% spear in peril, so there's the good spear in peril. 89% attack and magic break, and again, this will always be up unless the boss cures himself, but always be up. It's kind of awesome. Let's see here. And then the next cooldown is, I talked about this in the preview video, so 400 defense and spirit, 100 attack power, no magic buff for the party. You know, it's not that hard to find a magic buff elsewhere, but he can't buff magic. And then racial mitigation for Beast, Avian, Fairy, and I thought there was one more. No, just 3. For 80% to all allies. And again, usable on turn 1 and full uptime. Kind of awesome. And then right here, this we kind of knew from Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. They previewed it 2 days ago after the in-game news, unfortunately, or otherwise I would have included it in my video. But 87% physical mitigation for everyone for 6 turns on a 5-turn cooldown. So that is always active. 87% physical mitigation. That is, once again, awesome. Best in the game. Love to see it. Another LB damage buff, kind of whatever. Here is his Omni cover, and again, it says chance to protect caster. So something is broken somewhere on someone's end, but at the current time, it's saying protects caster, and 90% general mit, 87% mit for 3 turns. So the cover here is, you know, with the currently probably bugged Omni cover up here, you would always use this one, honestly speaking. But I'm going to assume that it's fixed before maintenance is over, or the wiki updates before maintenance is over. So we're going to assume that this is regular physical cover, and this is his only Omni cover. Actually, for now, let's focus only on the positives in Wilhelm's kit. Then we're going to go back and we're going to talk about the negatives in his kit. So for now, let's only go over the good stuff. So anyway, here is his Omni cover, and if you're using his LB every 3 turns, this is always active. It's permanent Omni cover if you're using his LB every 3 turns, which is very easy to do. It costs 60, so you can use this on turn 1. On turn 2, you could triple cast this chaining skill for 20 LB gauge, and then on turn 3, you could use his LB, and then turn 4, you reapply the Omni cover. So it's very, very simple to always have his Omni cover active unless you're getting dispelled. Then he's got a Magnus, 90% mitigation for physical, magical, and general, so pretty nice. And then a 90% attack and magic break once per battle for a little bit of extra boost. Let's skip over the passives for the moment. Let's go to his spells. Protect +3, Shell +2. He can imbue the party with wind, and then he has bar resistance buffs for 5 of the elements, which is awesome. You know, this can fill LB gauge for the party. You can give you resistances, etc. Very, very nice. We know his leader skill already. We know his overdrive already, and then his limit burst. Again, this was previewed on Twitter, but we're going to look at it now. So a self LB damage buff, barrier for the entire party, bigger than his one on his cover. 3 Mirage for the entire party, 770 damage in most of the game, and then 1050 in morale content, and it refills the charge of his Magnus ability. And as far as his passives go, so the usual stuff up here. What is evasive tactics again? Oh, his counter. He counters this up to 5 times per turn. He's got a... he automatically cast at the beginning of battle Omni cover on turn 1, so kind of like Paladin Cecil. Kind of really nice to have right there. We're going to ignore the Vertex stuff. That's never coming back, or at least never coming back in Clash. Maybe they bring it back another way. In morale content, he's got a 180% amplify. So, if you're going back to Morgana, you can do a 180 amplify in there. And then his normal attack is a perfect dispel. Now, keep in mind, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, limit of 5 per turn. Yeah, he can literally 100% chance. Yeah, he literally cannot. I was going to say you could give him a Blizzard Orb and have him counterattack a perfect dispel. That actually will never work. He will never counterattack this. And the reason being, if you give him a Blizzard Orb and he counterattacks, it's going to go through these 5 counters first at 100% hand, because these are innate counters. Innate counters always go off before regular counters. Because of the global nerf, because of Riku back in Dark Visions, on global, you can no longer counter more than 5 times per turn. So his first 5 counters will always be evasive tactics, meaning it is literally impossible for him to counterattack his normal attack. So he could only do this if you normal click him and make him normal attack and use his entire turn. That kind of sucks. Anyway, and back to the passive skills. He's got basically maxed out attack power and defense. A little bit of HP, Spirit, and MP. Double stack of Guts, Chain Cap. Does he have 100% chain or 200 Chain Cap by default? I'm not seeing 200. No, he doesn't. So he's going to need either the Magister's Ring or one of the other Chain Cap sources. Okay, that's pretty easy to give him, though. A little bit of Chain Speed, 50% Evasion, 70% Passive Provoke. He's immune to all ailments. He's immune to Stop and Charm. He's got some resistances right here. And then he's got maxed out double hand to attack and defense. And then 200 Omni Killer at EX2. So that's all the good stuff. He's going to gear for physical damage and physical tanking very, very easily. Most of his physical stats are capped just almost by default. So, yeah, and he's going to be a really, really good physical tank and a pretty good damage dealer. Let's look at his damage real quick. So, here is his damage calculations in most of the game's content. Right here. So, basically the third best damage dealer. Clive does slightly more, and then, well, a lot more, actually. And Fundamental does a decent amount more as well. But then, Wilhelm is the third best damage dealer. And keep in mind, for the most part, he can do that, depending on what you're fighting. He can do that damage basically while being your Omni cover tank. He has to make very, very little trade-offs to tank and deal damage at the same time. That's really good. And then his morale damage, yeah, you see I've renamed the Clash tab on my sheet to morale damage. So morale damage is second best. He's still beaten by Fundamental Force, but he is the second best morale damage dealer. And again, he can do that while being your tank, which is kind of awesome. So those are all really good things about Imperial Shield Wilhelm. Oh, and real quick, let me go ahead and give a quick update about his leader skill. So in my news video, I kind of joked a little bit about his leader skill being only for wind, because I said there's not really very many good wind units. Which is true, very true. What I completely forgot about is that both, and lots of people pointed it out to me, I forgot that both Ethne and Fundamental Force have the wind tag. They're also wind units. And then, of course, Phantom Thief Zahn is a Clash of Wills support unit, so he also gets the leader skill. So a really competent party with Wilhelm leading the party could be, for example, Wilhelm, Ethne, Fundamental Force, Phantom Thief Zahn, Clive, because Clive is also a wind unit, and then Benedicta for the wind and peril. So when I said that wind is not really that special on global, I totally forgot that two of our best units are also wind. I considered Fundamental like, a light element unit, and Ethne a dark element unit, but I kind of forgot that, They're not just light and dark. They are light, dark, and 5 more or 4 more elements. So yeah, both of them are also wind. So, when I said Wilhelm probably won't be your leader, well, he might be. He might be. It's very viable. Anyway, so those are all the good things about Wilhelm. Let's talk about something I'm a little concerned about Wilhelm. And the main thing is, if you are going to be making Wilhelm your Omni cover tank, and he is going to be tanking all of the damage, based on my early look, it seems like he is not going to be that great at taking magical damage. Let's see why. For one thing, his spirit is a decent chunk lower. Another thing is, unless you're like completely gutting his damage and making him just a tank, you're going to be using his spear for damage. But if you want him to tank magical damage, the spear has no spirit on it whatsoever. That also means you're not using a shield. And then most, he's got a little bit of spirit on his armor, a little bit of spirit on whatever helm you're going to use, and then a little bit of spirit on the accessories. But no shield and no spirit on the weapon. Let's go down to his passives. He has no spirit double hand whatsoever. None. And then his percent spirit is only 200%. He's got tons and tons of passive, defense and attack, but his passive spirit is very, very low. And he needs 600% to cap out. So, and also his mitigation. He's got 87% physical mitigation. His only magical mitigation is Shell +2 at 50%. 50% here. So he doesn't have any relevant magical mitigation. His spirit's going to be really bad. He's not using a shield. He's not using any spirit on his weapon, unless, of course, you give him like a one-handed spirit sword or something, and then a shield with spirit on it. That'll help a lot, but even so, his spirit seems to be questionable. Is it still going to be fine? I don't know. But, for example, the idea of Wilhelm going in and being your Omni cover tank against, like, Kefka or something. It might work. It might work. I really don't know. I haven't, literally sat down and done calculations on his effective health against magical damage. I'll probably do that after the video. But at a very early glance, it looks like against anything that is dealing relevant magical damage, him Omni covering might be a death sentence. I don't know. But it looks bad. It looks bad. And let's talk about the series boss battles. So Kefka does a ton of magical damage. He's going to be Omni covering Light of Judgment, as well as Forsaken, as well as all the elemental damage can be immune, not a problem. But Hyperdrive and all that. So Wilhelm might be taking a beating against Kefka. Against Vlad uses a whole bunch of magical damage. That being said, Vlad doesn't deal that much damage. He's probably going to be fine against Vlad. Vlad's probably no problem. Chaotic Darkness, you don't really use a tank at all, so who cares? And then against X-Death, I forget what his attacks are called, but some of them are magical, and some of them do hurt pretty badly. But I think overall on X-Death, he'll probably be fine. But I'm not sure Wilhelm can Omni cover tank Kefka. Maybe he can, I don't know. But anyway, that aside, all the older content, Wilhelm will tank totally fine. So any of the Grace Trials, what else even is there that you're not turn 1 OTKing? The boss rush, the permanent boss rush from Dark Vision's Abyss. Any of that, Wilhelm will tank that super easily. No problem. He's going to easily tank any of that. I'm just really worried about Wilhelm Omni cover tanking any kind of Kefka fight. Kefka's the big one. I don't think he can tank Kefka, but I don't know. Anyway, tomorrow when servers come up, I will go ahead and pull for Wilhelm with what I have. I actually said in my news video I only had 11k. I was mistaken. I've got actually 22k. I've got twice that. So I'm going to be doing about 22, 23k on Wilhelm, plus whatever we get from the story and the Vision World. So more like probably 25, 30k on Wilhelm. And that's not going to be enough for pity, but maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe we'll get lucky. I'm going to use it all. So, yeah, I'm going to try to get him. And if I do get him, we will try to beat Kefka with Wilhelm. We'll see how it works. Anyway, good unit. Overall, really good unit. Really good unit. I like him. Okay, see you in a bit.